Hello everybody, how are you all doing? I'm doing okay. There was something really important I was going to say to you at the beginning of this video, and I was thinking about it yesterday, thinking I've got to mention that. And I was thinking about it all day, and I've completely forgotten what it was. I don't think it was that important. It was to do with something that one of you mentioned, I'm sure, in somewhere, doing something. I'm going mad. It is a bit later today than I would normally do it. We had a busy morning of arguing with the children whilst trying to walk into town to get some shopping. A complete disaster. But there you go, one of lockdown's lessons. If you want to have fun, don't take the kids. Okay, so we are on Death Sentence. Oh, and you'll probably at some point see me go, oh, in the middle of this book when I remember what it is that I needed to tell you. It's really annoying. Why does my brain do that? Anyway. Yeah, you'll probably see me going, wow, I remember. So look for that moment. Alex and Z and Simon, including Donovan and Gary from the previous book, have all been captured by the warden, and they've been sent to a place that's even worse than general population, that's even worse than solitary confinement. They've been sent to the infirmary. Alex has been dosed up with a fluid they call nectar, which is kind of like this dark fluid filled with I guess sort of swirls of silver and gold. Nobody knows what it is. It's what the Weezers carry on the bandoliers around their neck. And he's been injected with this, and he's starting to have very vivid and violent dreams, and he's also starting to forget who he is. And he's trying to remember Monty from the first book, that Monty's message to whatever they do to you, never forget your name. He's also had his first piece of surgery, and his first piece of surgery was on his eyes. So, second sight. Why do you fight it? Oh yeah, and thank you for your concern about the voices. I'll do them for as long as I can. I feel all right today, but I quite like doing the warden like this. Really get into character. Second sight. Why do you fight it? It was words that had pulled me under. Now it was words wrenching me back up. Even as I woke from more nightmares, the same visions of boys becoming monsters, I recognised his voice. The way it hung in the air made me realise we weren't in the infirmary anymore. That and the absence of any other sound. Why do you resist it? What I'm offering you is power. Something you've never had before. Open your eyes. I realised I was sitting up, my arms and legs still bound. The pain was now a dull throb, the light streaming through my eyelids still a featureless fog. I shook my head, knowing that to obey the warden would only bring more agony. Open your eyes, he repeated, and this time his voice carried the promise of something worse than pain. I swallowed hard, taking down nothing but air, then tried to open my eyes. For a second, nothing happened. Then with a sickly sound, the lids parted. It felt like somebody was holding a welding iron to my retinas, and I screwed my eyes shut again. It only hurts for a moment, the warden said, and the compassion in his tone threw me. I opened my eyes a crack, gritting my teeth as the torture became discomfort. Then discomfort became nothing more than an itch. Gradually the world swam into focus, and I saw to my surprise that what I thought had been light turned out to be something else entirely. I was in a room made up of silver lines. It reminded me of one of those pictures you get when you're a kid and you have to scratch off the black layer to reveal the metal underneath. Only this picture was three-dimensional and laid out in intricate detail. I squinted, making out every scratch on the stone walls, every crack in the low ceiling, every mote of dust on the floor. There was too much information to take in, and I gagged, although there was nothing in my stomach to come up. "Take it easy," the warden said from behind me, his voice still laced with a kindness that I never thought I'd hear. "It's a lot to get used to." He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, then walked around until he entered my field of vision. To my new eyes, He resembled an angel, his skin radiating a platinum glow, every stitch of fabric in his suit as large and as clear as the Grand Canyon. Even though I still couldn't look him in the eye, I could see what lay there, 2 portals of cold fire that cast light onto the room and made everything appear to be made from molten lead. "What's happening?" I asked, wishing I could lift a hand to shield myself from the intensity of his glare.
"I told you,"
he said, his words appearing as a light mist that hung in the air before him, like breath on a cold morning.
"I'm offering you power you never could have imagined."
I shook my head, knowing that he was lying, trying to lower my defences.
"There is no trick,"
he went on with a laugh.
"Don't you trust your own eyes?"
"They're not mine," I spat back, screwing them shut.
"Oh, but they are,"
he said, and I felt his smooth fingers grab my chin, turning my head to face him.
"It's only natural to fight, but think about what I am offering. Did you ever dream you would be able to see in the dark?"
I snapped my eyes open, and this time my quickening pulse had nothing to do with fear. I looked again at the walls and their network of silver veins. I saw the pores on the hand that held me.
"Lights!"
the warden said, and instantly the room turned inside out, silver becoming substance, shadows blasted away by colour. I felt the world spin, but the warden's fingers on my flesh kept me steady. Only when my vision had settled did he let go, pacing back and forth as if in deep thought. I took in my surroundings. A small room, with the chair I was sitting in and a screen on the wall in front of me. Everything still seemed to carry far more detail than was possible, as if seen through a magnifying glass.
"This is just the beginning," the warden continued. "You'll soon see what true power is. Tell me, is there not a part of you that hates the world for what it has done? That hates being the child who can be pushed around, treated like dirt, who has no control over his life?"
I knew what the warden was doing. I knew he was trying to manipulate me, but something in his words struck home with a force I couldn't deny. He was right. The world had forgotten me, locked me up and thrown away the key. I thought about all the times I dreamed of being able to fight my way out of Furnace, destroying everything in my path until I broke into the sunlight. "No!" I said, trying to recover my thoughts. It was the warden who had taken my life, him and his black suits. If they hadn't killed Toby and framed me for his murder, then I could have taken control. I could have straightened out. "No, this is your doing. You did this to me." The warden stopped pacing and turned to face me once again. In the cold light of the room, his gaze was sickening, and even though I closed my eyes and turned away, I could feel his thoughts inside my own. He began to tut like a mother scolding her child.
I know, it's because of me that you are here, but think about what I am offering you. If you surrender to me, then nobody up there," he almost spat those 2 words, "can ever tell you what to do again. The world is changing, and is it not better to be with those who wield power than those who are subject to it?"
"I won't let you turn me into one of them," I shouted back. But again the warden's words burrowed into my heart, made it pound not with terror, but with something else. Excitement.
"Everything you have ever wished for, and all we ask is that you forget your old life. Think about it. Think long and hard. What are you giving up? A history of weakness, of crime, of being told what to do. Would you really miss it?"
But my parents, I tried, causing him to bark with laughter.
"Aha! Your parents! The ones who abandoned you when you needed them most, who left you here to rot without even fighting for an appeal against your sentence. They are part of the disease that was your old life. Give it up, give it all up, and embrace something new."
"It's who I am," I said. "I won't let you have it."
"How can you stop me unless you surrender to me? Without my help, you are powerless. There is nothing for you in your past. Forget it. Forget who you were, and give yourself to me."
For an horrible instant, I almost succumbed. Something in my blood bubbled up in response to his words. I could see myself as one of them, too strong to be told what to do, too fast to be caught, an unstoppable force that could take revenge on anyone who wronged me. But it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be me. I thought about Donovan, who must have been put through this same process. I saw him fighting it again and again until he had no strength left. And I saw what he had become, his soulless grin, his overstuffed body, his dead eyes. "Never!" I screamed, wrenching at the straps that held me to the chair. "My name is Alex Sawyer! My name is Alex Sawyer! Alex Sawyer! Alex Sawyer! Alex Sawyer!" And I kept saying it over and over, even when the warden's fury erupted, even when the wheezer that had been standing silently behind me jabbed another needle into my arm. I kept saying it until the poison once again smothered my voice, and even then it burned through my mind, chasing every other thought into the darkness.
"So be it," said the warden. "We can do this the hard way. Pin his eyes. Start the reel."
I fought the hands that grabbed me, but what could I do? I felt my head clamped into the back of the chair, felt something jab into the flesh around my eyes, and when the screen in front of me came to life in a blur of reds, I discovered that I couldn't blink. I couldn't turn away.
"Everyone wants power, whether they admit it or not. Let's see how you feel after a day in here."
Then, with a clatter of bars and the squeal of a door, they were gone, leaving me alone with the worst sights of the world. It started with animals. Somewhere on the open plains of Africa, I guessed. The footage was scarred and faded, as though the reel had been played a million times before, but it couldn't hide the violence that played out on screen. Lions chased springboks, claws through tendons to bring them down, then teeth in throats to make sure they couldn't get back up. Packs of wild dogs ganged up on baby wildebeests, charging in with drooling jaws for the kill. Gazelles were slaughtered in high-speed chases by cheetahs, the muzzles of their killers caked in gore. It could have been something from the Discovery Channel, a highlight reel of nature's most ferocious kills. I almost laughed at how ridiculous it was, except I could feel something inside me churning at the sights. At first I thought it was pity for the creatures that died. When I watched shows like this as a kid, I rooted for the quarry, prayed that it would make it to safety. I used to hate it when the predators won, hated their smug expressions as they feasted on raw flesh. I was always on the side of the chased. But now, bolted to a chair with the whole world pinning me down, I no longer felt pity for the prey. Every time I saw a wide-eyed antelope tumble into the dirt, the flurry of white and red as the lion literally tore its life away, I grinned with sick satisfaction. My stomach clenched like it used to do when I'd robbed a house. Goosebumps broke out on my skin, and I felt my pulse beat a little bit faster. When I saw the light ebb from the eyes of a rabbit crushed beneath a giant paw, I felt nothing but hatred for the creature's weakness and nothing but admiration for the beast that had bettered it. The sensation was so intense that it soon made me forget about the pain in my eyes. For the first few minutes they had burned, but as kill followed kill followed kill, the agony seemed to become a part of me, a small sacrifice I had to make to grow into a stronger person. The same way lions and cheetahs and wild dogs had to go through hell, and back every day just to survive. I don't know how much time had passed and how much blood had flowed before I admitted to myself I wouldn't have looked away, even if I'd had the option. I tried to tell myself that it was the poison in my blood that had altered my thoughts, and there was some truth in that. I could feel the nectar push its way around my body with every beat of my heart, the dark liquid alive inside my veins as though the footage on screen was calling to it. Deep down, though, I knew why I savoured the slaughter before me with such relish. The warden was right. I was powerless. I was one of the pathetic grazers of the Serengeti, a rabbit or an antelope too cowardly to do anything but run when danger threatened. Every moment of my life I had been tense, ready to bolt. when I was breaking into houses, when I was framed for Toby's murder, when I found myself face to face with the gangs in general population, I was always the prey and never the predator. And this was never more true than when I was chased by the black suits. Fast, powerful and fearless, they were the ultimate hunters, the true kings of this underground jungle. I could never be anything other than the quarry, pinned helpless and screaming beneath their shoes. Unless I became one of them. I wasn't sure if the voice in my head was mine or the warden's, and the shock of it brought me back. I tried to blink, to twist my head, but the movements only gave the pain a fresh hold on me. Desperate to escape any way I could, I let my vision swim out of focus so that the pictures on screen became blurs. But my new eyes were too efficient to lose sight of the world so easily, and with each sick detail they took in, I found myself drawn further into the warden's trap. It might have been an hour later, maybe 2 or 3, when the reel ended and a new one began. This time there were no animals, only people, but the raw violence was the same. I could do nothing but watch as gangs of police clubbed their victims into the tarmac, as thugs overwhelmed smaller opponents with dull laughter, as endless lines of soldiers marched in perfect time through ruined city streets, their conquered enemies cowering beneath them. Again and again and again, the strong beat down the weak, the powerful overcame the powerless. My horror soon became excitement once more, which then became envy. By the time I blacked out, ushered into restless sleep by the rhythm of steel boots, my envy had become a hunger for power far greater than any found in nature, and the hollow shriek of my own laughter sent chills down my spine as this new nightmare swallowed me. Voices. I drifted in and out of consciousness while the endless film played on, unable to tell which of the horrors I'd seen on the screen and which had life only in my dreams. Once, when I woke, I could feel the warden standing beside me. I couldn't turn to look at him, but I could sense the smile on his face as he watched a platoon of black-jacketed soldiers throw an emaciated corpse onto a pile of bodies.
"The world has always worked this way," he said, "and it always will. Most people don't get to choose whether they can take the side of the predators or the prey, but you can."
He leaned in closer, the stench of his breath the perfect accompaniment to the horror projected before my eyes.
"I know you feel it. It's impossible not to. For far too long now you have been the victim."
Grainy footage in shades of grey showed a ghostly teenager, not much older than me, escorted in front of a firing squad. Even past the snowstorm of scratches and burns on screen, I could see that he was terrified, and there was no hood to hide his screams as the anonymous riflemen raised their weapons and fired.
"I'm offering you the chance to be something so much more," the warden went on, his dry whisper against my ear. "You don't have to let them trample all over you any longer. You can be in charge of your own destiny, too powerful to let anyone tell you what to do. Anyone but me, that is."
His words hit home with the same horrible temptation, and by the time I remembered to open my mouth to fight him, he was already gone. Later, maybe much later, I woke to feel the needle slide out of my arm, replaced by a fresh one. I heard the wheeze of the creature standing beside me, felt its filthy fingertips on my skin, and I cried out for as long as it took the nectar to flood my arteries again. It was as if I'd been injected with pure caffeine, and all of a sudden the images on screen became even sharper, the poison like a living creature inside me that thrived on pain and suffering, that wanted to witness through my eyes as much death as possible. I wasn't sure when I fell asleep again, but the next time I stirred I was shocked to see that the film had finished, replaced by a blurred darkness. At least that's what I thought, until the darkness moved and I realised it had been a hand. Before me stood a black suit, and in his silver eyes I saw a reflection of my own, echoing each other into infinity. He grinned at me. but it showed none of the malice I was used to. Instead, the smile was almost one of pity. "It's hard to watch at first," the suit growled, the thunder of his voice echoing around the small room. He lifted his hand again and bathed my eyes in the lightless warmth of its shadow. "But it's not for much longer. We all went through this. It made us stronger, more powerful. I'll give your eyes a rest, but when I go, don't fight it." I tried to speak, but my throat was as dry as sandpaper. I coughed, tried again. "You were like me once," I hissed, my words barely audible over the sound of the footage, the crack of breaking bones. "A kid. They turned you into a monster." "I was never like you," the black suit said. "None of us were. We were born in Furness, born from pain into power. And you will be too. Don't fight it." And then he was gone. With no hand to block it, the floodgates opened once again and the mayhem cascaded into my head. I fought to remember who I was and what had happened to me, but the film on screen was a tide of violence that consumed me, and as I drowned in the endless parade of bloodlettings and bruisings, I realised I could no longer remember what I looked like. All I saw in the charnel house of my mind was a black suit I knew was me, kicking and punching my enemies until there was nothing left of them. And the true horror was, it felt great. The pattern of violence from the film must have been burned onto my new retinas, because even though I could still see it played out in front of me, I was aware that I was lying in my bed back in the infirmary. I blinked, the relief blasting through me as I discovered I could close my eyes. When I opened them again, the illusion was gone, and I found myself staring at the shadowed rock of the ceiling. The only movement was the lights, which swung gently as if buoyed by the sobs that rose up from all around me. I looked from side to side, wincing as my neck muscles cramped. Gritting my teeth, I eased my head in a circle until the pain had gone. God knows how long I'd been strapped to that chair. It could have been hours, it could have been days, it could have been weeks. In the guts of Furness, so deep beneath the ground, there was no way of telling how much time had passed. It might as well not have existed at all. I tried to move my arms, knowing without looking that they were bound to my sides by leather straps. I felt the frustration build up inside me and swore under my breath, hating myself for being so useless. When I got out, as soon as the straps were loosened, I'd tear the warden and his black suits to pieces. The thought of it filled me with a kind of euphoria, one so powerful that it made my head spin. Adrenaline surged through me, and I felt the poison alongside it, pumped with such force that all my muscles turned to fire. Beneath the thin sheet, I could see them knotting, their leather straps creaking as my limbs swelled. It only lasted a couple of seconds before my strength abandoned me, leaving me an empty husk on the bed, but the exhilaration of it made me smile. Behind the drumroll of my heart, I could hear a wheezer somewhere in the infirmary, its clumsy steps accompanied by the clinking of glass syringes and the dry hiss of its breath. There was also a noise coming from somewhere to my left, a voice as faint and annoying as a dying fly. I ignored it, diving once again into the maelstrom of my thoughts. Yes, as soon as I was free, I would set about my vengeance, and it wouldn't end with the freaks of Furness. I'd kill them all. The inmates in Gen Pop who'd given me a hard time, the police who'd brought me in, who'd accused me of a crime I hadn't committed, a crime I couldn't have committed, not back then, anyway. Now I'd have no trouble pulling the trigger if my enemies stood before me. I'd make them wished they'd never picked on me. They'd be screaming by the time I finished with them. I pictured myself storming into the police station. They'd go for their weapons, but they wouldn't be quick enough. I'd have my hands around their throats before they could call for help, and they'd be dead before they hit the floor. The noise from my left came again, distracting me from my fantasy. I ignored it, wanting to be back inside my head where I was no longer powerless, where I called all the shots. After I'd finished with the police, I'd go after the jury who'd condemned me, and the judge who'd sent me here. Nobody would be safe. And last, my parents. They hadn't been there for me when I'd needed them most, when my life was at stake. They hadn't fought for me. They hadn't even believed in my innocence. Well, they'd pay just like everybody else. The voice came again, whispering a word I didn't recognise. "Quiet!" I said, my own speech little more than a growl. I liked the sound of it. It was no longer the whining mule I'd known all my life. This was something greater, a voice that could strike terror into people. I uttered it again, a throbbing snarl that sounded like one of the warden's dogs. It ended in a twisted laugh, behind which I could make out the strange word again. "I said quiet!" I spat, feeling the power in the words, even though they were slurred. "I'll kill you!" In my head, my threats took on their own life, and I watched myself tear free of my restraints, march into the next cubicle, and stay true to my promise. It was just like in the warden's film, only instead of the thugs and the police and the soldiers, I saw myself as the predator, as the victor, and the whole world lying broken at my feet. My excitement rose from my stomach, bringing with it another burst of insane laughter. But the voice next door wouldn't give up. It repeated the word, then it repeated it again and again, until it was a constant barrage of whispered sound. Unable to return to my imagination, I tried to focus on it, tried to make sense of what I was hearing. The word was familiar, but I couldn't think from where. I opened my mouth, tried to wrap my mouth around it. "Alex," I said, feeling the syllables like lumps of chalk against my tongue. "Alex. Alex. Alex." Each time I spat out the sound, the darkness in my head grew softer. The image of myself as a black suit, as a killer, began to break apart. For an instant I saw my parents cowering on the floor and bleeding from the wounds that I had dreamed upon them. Nausea gripped my gut with iron fingers, followed almost immediately by a sense of shame that brought tears to my eyes. I shook my head wildly to clear the last of the waking nightmare, letting my sobs come freely. "Alex, you've got to keep fighting," said the voice. I thought I recognised the accent, but I couldn't think from where. I pictured a boy, saw us jumping into a river, saw us hugging each other outside the solitary cells, saw us climbing the incinerator chimney together. But the knowledge attached to those memories scattered into pieces, like birds taking flight. "Alex Sawyer, don't forget it, okay? You can't let them win. Just remember Donovan, remember Monty." Names that should mean something, but didn't. But it wasn't important. I had mine, Alex Sawyer, and so long as I did, the warden and his army couldn't reach me. Not unless I wanted them to. Okay, I will stop there. That's our half an hour. The next chapter is called Truth. I think I remember what it was. But it might not have been. It doesn't feel right. But anyway, another thing I was going to tell you is that right now I should be on a plane coming to America. I was going to go and do some school visits in upstate New York. And then I was going to head over to LA for some meetings about the movie. And yeah, it's sadly not going to happen now, obviously because of COVID. So yeah, I feel very sad that I maybe would have been seeing some of you at some point in the next 10 days or so. But I will be back. Hopefully we are going to reschedule for next year. Hopefully all this will be over by next year. And I will come over and see you in America. I love America so much. Yeah, okay. I think that's probably enough for today. I hope you're having a lovely day. And I hope it continues to be a lovely day. And I hope you don't get taken by the warden and the Weezers and the black suits tonight. Anyway, take care and I will see you very soon. Bye.